Hey guys, welcome back to another HTML video, and in this tutorial I'm going to be explaining how you can use collection views or grid views as you might have seen them. I'm going to show you how to implement these in your websites. So let's just call this collection views because that's how I tend to see them. But what I mean by this is if you've been to any sort of website where they have a sort of grid layout, then I think you would have seen one of these collection views. So you would know what I mean by seeing the thumbnail of this video. So let's just open up this thing, and yeah, okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is pretty simple. Just going to create a div, and this is going to contain our collection view. So let's just call this. Let's give it a class of collection view, and I'm actually going to create a styles .css thing for this, because this is going to require quite a lot of CSS. So let's incorporate that. Let me think. Okay, so let's just do that. Now we want to incorporate a styles of CSS. Okay, so we've got a collection view. I'm going to start off by just giving it some dimensions. So let's just give it a height of, let's say, 600 pixels and a width of 800. And let's give it a background color just so we can see it. Okay, so this is going to be our collection view, and I might actually just give this a background color of white smoke, and then give it a border pixel of black. Okay, so here's our collection view. Pretty simple, and I'm also just going to center this just so it looks nice. Place items center. Okay, so we have our collection view, and now we want to put some cells inside of it. So what I mean by a cell is we might have one cell, one cell, one cell. So kind of like a table, but this time instead of just having rows, we have rows and columns. So it's like we've got a cell, 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 and they're just sort of blocks. So we can create a few divs, and for now I'm just going to create one, and let's also give this a class of cell. Let's say this has some cell data inside of this. Okay, so right now this isn't looking too interesting. We're just having a div, but it's pretty simple. So we're actually going to be doing most of the setup on the collection view item itself rather than the div, the cell. So the first thing we want to do is we can actually just obviously use display grid. I'm sure you guys would have seen that coming, but if we use display grid and now we say grid template columns, so we're going to use the repeat function, and what this does is it's going to dynamically create a grid depending on the parameters you give it. We want this to be auto fit, so that's going to basically create as many columns as it can with a specified size we give it without trying to squeeze an extra one in. And let's just give it a cell size. So I'm just going to have each cell being 100 pixels, or let's say 90 pixels, 80 pixels, or 120, just so, actually I need to be 80 because I just don't want it to be a whole number which goes into okay, I'll do 120. Yeah, I just don't want it to be a whole number which goes into these, so okay, let me do 110. Sorry. Okay, so we've got our grid template columns. Now we can see those if we just go over to our inspector and we just want to view the grid. You can see we've actually only got one, but that's alright because there's only one cell in here, which is why there's only one. If I were to add more, you can see there would be more generated, and each of these is 110 pixels wide. Okay, so that's working fine. Delete all of these, and now as for the rows, well, we're not really going to set the rows because we want it to sort of be dynamically creating these columns. So if we also wanted to do rows, then it gets a little bit complicated. So what we can actually use instead is we can just use the map content tool, like so. So pretty simple stuff, and yeah, that's pretty good. So now we've got a grid which is going to create columns 110 pixels wide, and the max content is just going to just resized for the cells inside of it, which is why we now have to set a specific height of the cells to take advantage of this max content. So we don't have to set the cell's width. I mean, we could just set it to 100% to take up 100% of the available grid space, but we're not going to do that. So what I can do is I can set a height, and if you want your cells to be square, then just set it to the same height as you set the columns, and yeah, that should be basically it. So I'm going to create a border for this cell as well so you can actually see it, and then let's give this a background color of red. Nice. So we've got our cell. Now I can copy along some more cells, and you can see we've got our cells, and this is the important thing. So when we create another cell, notice how it wraps around like this, but this cell does not correspond. So this cell does not correspond to the second cell. It actually just goes in order. So that's really nice. Like if you see, I can edit this, just say sum. Now it's like that. So yeah, this is really nice. It's actually just created a cell for us, and that was really simple. Like we just had to implement this basic code, and we're basically taking advantage of the grid function and how it can utilize the auto repeat function to generate a dynamic grid based on the containers. So if we were to, you can see where this would be useful, because right now our collection view has a fixed width, so it's not that useful. But if I was to make this 100%, now you can see I'm going to copy and paste all of this just to generate a lot of cells. And now you can see if I were to resize this window, oh, okay, let's just resize that, and yeah, you can see this is working, although I'm not too sure what's going on over here. Let's just inspect the element quickly, and okay, that's really odd. So let me add one more. Let's see what's going on with the grid. Okay, so it appears that the grid has created this new row of cells and it's not using them. Okay, that's quite odd, but okay, so we might have to fix that by setting height to max content. Okay, yeah, so basically what I did is, I believe what's happening is when we set this to a fixed value, it's trying to take up all of that space, whereas if we set this to max content, then it's only going to take up the space it requires. So yeah, you can't actually use a set height value, although that's fine because you could just wrap this and then use that kind of thing. But yeah, these are the basic constraints which you need to adhere to if you want to implement this collection view. So now you can see when I resize this, it works perfectly, just like so. Don't know why it doesn't seem to update dynamically, but that's not a problem with this. Okay, so this is looking pretty good so far. Just going to make this look a bit nicer by making this white, and we can also add a border radius. Let's just say 5 pixels. Okay, let's say 15, and add some padding. Do I want to add padding? Okay, yeah, I'll just add it. So actually no, it's fine. We can just center the content like this. So this display grid is just okay. So there's only one more thing I want to touch on before I end this video, because you can see this this collection view looks pretty nice now. But what we can actually do is we can implement a gap. So right now it looks a bit weird how the cells are right next to each other, so we can implement a small gap between them, which will make it look a lot more natural. So I can use a gap of, let's say, 12 pixels, and you can see how it has enlarged the things a little bit, but it's also made the cells look much more natural. And I can also add padding on this. Let's just add padding 10 pixels, but then I'm gonna have to add in all these border sizes things. So we can just do WebKit border sizing, sorry, box sizing, and we're gonna set everything to border box, just to avoid the padding changing the size of the window. What's wrong with this? Okay, and we also got to find standard font, obviously. Okay, there we go. So now it's back to normal, and yeah, this was pretty good. Now our cells are well spaced, and I also have some border spacing between them. There's just one more thing. I don't really like how there's like an empty space here. The reason for that is because I set it to auto fit. I set it to autofill. It's not really going to change anything. The reason this happens is because that empty space is less than 110 pixels, but it's still noticeable. So what we can do to fix this is we can actually use a technique of just justifying the content to center, and that's just going to move everything into the center. So it's still not taking up 100% of the screen, but at least now the content is centered. So it's now it still looks quite nice. But yeah, this was how I create a collection view in HTML. See how I just added loads more cells and it automatically updated. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in a future tutorial. Bye.